Hello, we are here today with Stephen Mills, the artistic director and choreographer for the Light Project. Welcome, thank you so much.
Great to be here, thank you.
Stephen is bringing a production to the Kravis Center November 6th for students and November 7th for the general public, and it's sponsored by Insight Through Education. And we just wanted you to tell us a little bit about the Light Project and the show you'll be presenting.
Well, the Light Project, it's called Light, the Holocaust and Humanity Project, and the goal of it is to bring the community together and to teach specifically about the history of the Holocaust, but also reaching out to issues of, contemporary genocide, human rights, things as common as we have today as cyberbullying, really just trying to encourage people to call out acts of bigotry and hate where they see them, and using art as a catalyst to have that conversation. I think that the purpose of Light is to bring a human face to this very catastrophic event. The story of Light follows one survivor. So the dance isn't a dance about the Holocaust. The dance is a story about one survivor's experience through the Holocaust and all the pain and difficulties that she endured throughout that. So for teachers, it allows a human connection to accompany the historical content that they're giving.
This was from a personal account. What was the lady's name that went through this?
So the story of Light follows one survivor, and her name is Naomi Warren. And Naomi was a young girl in Poland. She had just recently married. She had aspirations of becoming a teacher. And she came from a rather influential Jewish family in Poland. And when the war began, the Germans came from one side and the Russians came from the other. And they met at a river and they separated the country. And Germany got one side, Russia got one side. The majority of Naomi's family was on the Polish side, but her father happened to be on the Russian side. And so there became the separation of her family.
Right.
From there, she was transported to Auschwitz, the original camp, Auschwitz I. So she survived Auschwitz. She then went to a camp called Ravensbrück, another work camp. And then she eventually ended up at Bergen-Belsen, which is the camp that most students might know as the camp where Anne Frank died. And from Bergen-Belsen is where she was liberated by the British. She spent time after the war in a displaced persons camp, and she had an uncle who lived in Houston, and somehow she had remembered his address, and she wrote a note and gave it to a USGI and said, if you find yourself back in the United States, will you please give this to my uncle? Which he did. And the uncle had no idea what had happened to her, and came and got her and brought her to Houston. The story of this dance begins with the story of Adam and Eve, with the idea that we all come from the same place. We are the same people. This idea of race, the Nazis considered them Jews as a different race. The idea of race is something we've constructed. It doesn't exist, And so it starts with the story of Adam and Eve, and from Adam and Eve is where we come, and families were created, and cultures were developed, and traditions, weddings, births, all those things that make life beautiful. So we moved to that section, and then for some reason, a group of people are targeted as being less than. And then we move into a section which talks about the ways in which those people were segregated, and then further dehumanized by placing them in these camps. And then, in one of the closing sections of the dance, there's a section we call Ashes that sort of talks about the circle of life and the circularity of this life in camp. You enter into this camp, there's a particular routine to it, and some people survive it and some people step off that circle and do not survive it. And then ultimately, the end of the dance is a piece we called Hush, because Naomi feels as though she has always said that she survived only because of the hope that she carried with her. And while that may have been Naomi's story, that was not the story of every survivor of the Holocaust. But it was important for Naomi to be able to show hope as a way of concluding this ballet. We go on this cycle of devastation and destruction, and on the other end of it is the idea of hope.
What I gained so much from other survivors as well was this sense of needing to survive and hoping that everything was going to work out for the best.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. It's almost more of a storytelling than a ballet.
Right.
It's a journey of one of your characters, and I love that.
The dance is always about metaphor, and the most powerful aspects of art is when it's not telling you what to think,
Right.
but raises questions.
Right.
For you to sort of ponder, how is this relevant to me? I'm a high school student, here in Florida. How is this relevant to me in my life?
Right.
And I think that there are lots of parallels that the students will be able to draw from this story.
What are some projects or some things that teachers and students can do together in the community after seeing the Light Project? How can they carry that message of hope to their own communities?
I think the most valuable part of the Light Project is the communication that it allows to happen. Because it opens up more questions than it answers. The project isn't about answering questions, because it's art.
Right.
Art doesn't change. I've said this before. Art doesn't change the world. People change the world, and it's only through communication that those changes can actually happen. So my hope is that if the students and the teachers and families from all over the area come to see the performance, they will then go home and engage in a conversation that is relevant to them today.
Once again, that is the Light Project. We want to thank Stephen so much for coming this afternoon.
It's a pleasure.
Pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
November 6th, November 7th at the Kravis Center. November 6th is a student production, and November 7th is open to the public. We invite everyone to come out. This is sponsored by Insight Through Education and the Kravis Center's Education Department as well. We look forward to receiving inquiries, questions, any assistance we can provide. Thank you so much again,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mills.
Thank you very much.
Please
Thank you
come
all.
see the production.
Yeah.
Thank you.